Friends, David Paulides, Canammissing Project. That is Huck L. Berry right there. Huck, you're such a good girl. You're such a good girl. Yeah, she's a good pup. She's a good pup. She's got her big fur coat on coming in for the winter. It's getting about 10% bigger every week. And in about 4 weeks, that thing is going to be huge. Huh, Huck? But you're staying nice and warm, huh? You're a good girl. So, just a reminder, friendly reminder, got our big premiere coming up December 1st. American Sasquatch, Man, Myth, or Legend. The actual premiere is coming up November 28th. In Tacoma, Washington. If you go to missing411.com, go to the online store, you can get tickets there still. And it's at the Tacoma Convention Center. It's a huge facility. And we've got a lot of special things planned. So if you can get out there for it, I guarantee you're going to have fun. Since we are talking about Washington, I've spent a lot of time in and around Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier is a very, very unusual place. Much more dangerous than, say, Mount Shasta, which I've climbed. Essentially, it's got to be in shape to do it, but it's essentially a climb. Not on your hands and knees. It's a tough climb up a mountain. Rainier's different. It's a whole lot different. It can be very dangerous. I would not ever attempt that without being part of a guide group. Now, when I was doing missing people research, I came across a story about Rainier that is fascinating. And let me read to you. This is from a publication called The Old Man of the Crater by Major E.S. Ingraham of the Washington Alpine Club of Washington. Yes, this is supposedly a true story. It says, while my companion and I were exploring the steam caves at the time of my second visit to the crater of Rainier, that's at the top, I noticed peculiar marks and scratchings on the floor of the cave. In some place, the ground appeared as though it had been the scene of a conflict between some maddened beasts, so extensive was the disturbance. In other places, there were depressions that might have been made by some flat-footed animal pawing on the earth. My curiosity was deeply excited. The lower we descended into the cave, the more frequent but less marked were those scratchings. As the sunlight from without became dim, I noticed a peculiar soft glow in the atmosphere of the cave, hardly perceptible, that might have been produced by either light or heat, but it was probably brought about by the presence of some force more subtle than either. I also felt a peculiar sensation of the body, such as a person feels when standing upon an insulated stool with his hand holding the pole of an electrical machine slightly charged. Whether my companion noticed these startling phenomena, I do not know. If he did, he, like myself, remained silent upon the subject. The situation was extremely interesting to one of the scientific turn of mind and invited investigation, but I suggested to my companion a return to the outer world. Within my own mind, I decided to revisit the cave alone later. Late in the night, they camped at the summit. When my three bedfellows were found asleep, I cautiously crawled from under my scantily covering and was soon in the cave again. When it was intensely dark within and cold without, the warmth of the steam cave soon restored my benumbed body to an unusual degree, and comfort of my sleeping senses resumed to an unwonted activity. Slowly groping my way along the floor of the cave, I was soon within the influence of a mysterious glow that I had noticed upon my first descent. The situation was weird and startling. Midnight in the crater. The vaulted sky above you, the only familiar object, and the hot rocks and hissing steam around you suggesting what once was and what may again be, to leave my sleeping companions and the least familiar object, to descend toward the source of the heat and the steam, to go down towards the earth's hot interior, all intended to try my nerves and fill my mind with some strange forebodings. While prudence and caution would forbid me to my companions and leave the mysteries of the cave unsolved, I still cautiously groped my way onward. The sense of feeling became strangely acute. I could readily keep in the center of the cave by extending my hand to either side and noting the object of temperature caused by the adjacent walls. The mysterious influence of a still more mysterious force enabled me to know my surroundings quite distinctly. As before stated, these steam caves seemed to radiate from the center of the crater, a single passage branching one or more as it nears the rim of the crater. As I reached the point where another passage joined, or more properly separated from the one I was following, when I was startled by a noise, followed by several stones rolling down the tributary passage. Had my companion of my first visit noticed the mysterious things that I had? And was he, like myself, seeking to discover their cause? I quickly stepped within a recess of the wall of ice on my left and awaited developments. I had not long to wait, for almost immediately there came making an attempt to crawl, a figure of strange and grotesque appearance. Down the passage, it stopped within a few feet of me, writhing and floundering very much as a drowning man would do when drawn from the water as he was about to sink for the last time. Its shape was nearer that of a human being than of any animal. The crown of the head was pointed, with bristle hair pointing in every direction. The eyeballs were pointed too, and while they appeared dull and visionless at times, yet there was an occasional flash of light from the points with which increased in frequency and brilliancy as the owner began to revive. The nails of its fingers and toes were long and pointed and resembled polished steel more than a hardened cuticle. I discovered that the palms of the hands and soles of the feet were hard and calloused. In fact, the whole body, while human in shape, except the pointedness of the parts I have mentioned, seemed very difficult in character from the human species. There was nothing about the mysterious being, however, that would make it impossible that its ancestries of long ago might have been human beings like ourselves. Yet by living in different surroundings and under entirely different conditions, many of the characteristics had changed. By degrees, this strange being began to revive. Gradually, an electric glow covered the entire body, with light centers at the ends of these pointed nails, the eyes, and the top of the head. It seemed to accomplish its revivification by rubbing its hands vigorously together. As soon as it was able to stand, it began to rub its feet rapidly toward the floor of the cave. This increased the glow of the body and caused the light centers to shine with increased brilliancy. It seemed to receive some vital fluid from the earth that at once gave new vigor to the whole system. Involuntarily, I imitated its actions and immediately found myself undergoing a very peculiar sensation. It seemed to be growing in accord with the strange being who then for the first time noticed my presence. He at once redoubled his former movements. He would rub his hands vigorously together and then quickly extend the points of the fingers in my direction when the sparks light would dart therefrom. Having become deeply interested in this strange exhibition, I went through the same maneuver with a similar result, although apparently in a much lesser degree. The effect was magical. I was becoming a rapport with the old man of the crater. I could see a brilliant point of light gradually forming around its head. Feeling my own hair beginning to rise, I removed my knit cap and felt my hair bristling towards the common point. The light from its crown seemed to form an arch above and between us, and we were in communication. There in that icy passage connecting the unknown interior of the earth with the exterior by means of a new medium, or rather an old medium newly applied, two intelligent beings, different races, were enabled to communicate, imperfectly at first, but with each other. For an hour I received impressions of the old man of the crater. It is a strange story I got from him. While the time was comparatively short, yet what he told me, not by voice or look, but by subtle agency not known or understood by me, would fill a volume of many pages. Finally, expressly doubted what he communicated, he commanded me to follow him. I anticipated such a demand and was ready to resist it. So when he returned to descend to the hot interior of the earth, I verily believe by superhuman effort, I broke the spell and hastened upward back to my sleeping companions. This is no myth. The old man told me of his abode in the interior of another race to which he belonged, and the traditions of that race of convulsions and changes in the earth long, long ago, of the gradual contraction of a belt of matter around the earth until it touched the surface, hemming in many of the inhabitants and drowning the remainder, and the survival of a single pair. All was shut out and the atmosphere began to change. Gradually, this remaining pair was enabled to conform to the new order of things and became parents of a race, which for want of a better name, I will call Subranians. This old man of the crater had wandered far away from his abode in the race in his desire to explore. Far away from my home, we had met, each out in an unusual sphere. First time I read that, I thought, well, it can't be true. But hearken back to Mount Shasta. Mount Shasta supposedly has a race of beings, I don't know if they're like that or that, under the mountain. And that story goes back to the 1800s. I've written about people who disappeared on Mount Shasta, and psychics have told me that one of the people was given a choice if they wanted to go down into the middle of Shasta and live with these people, and that person made a choice and did. I have no idea if it's true. I have no idea if this is true. But I find the story fascinating. There was an old X-Files show, supposedly based out of Oregon, where a man went nuts inside of an environment just like this. And Scully and Mulder went there and did some research and found that the whole crew had gone crazy, and in some ways it kind of mimicked that story. Again, unknowing if it's true. I will tell you this, that I know that the entire first season of the X-Files was based on FBI files from one person that I know. That's true. So, we live in a world that's very strange, folks. Very strange. So since we're talking about Mount Rainier, let's keep going that way. There's a man named T.F. Callahan. He lived in Portland. And he was writing a book on Mount Rainier. Well, he also made guided trips up the mountain. And this was in 1909. Well, he was having a group that were interested in going up the mountain. And he held a meeting for the group outdoors on August 13th, 1909. He called it the Camp at the Clouds. And he said that he had climbed peaks all over the Alps, North America, and he had spent much time climbing Rainier. And he would take a group up tomorrow. Well, there weren't a lot of takers, but there were a few. On August 14th, the next day, they were staying part on that mountain. At 4 a.m., 3 men left camp to summit Rainier. As they're climbing up, Callahan and another person named Joseph Stevens were quite a bit ahead of another man, a man named Sterling. Sterling said as he was going up, a blizzard seemed to move in abruptly. And he said, quickly, my hands began to freeze. He said there was no way I was going to make it up that summit. And the two guys ahead, Callahan and Stevens, were really moving fast. And he thought they had a chance to make it, but he didn't understand how they would make it either because the visibility was so bad and it was so cold. So Sterling turns around and comes back down the mountain, makes it down to base camp where there is a group of people, and they could see the blizzard on the mountain getting worse. He said that he was lucky that he had descended to Camp Muir because he knew he wasn't going to make it, alive or dead. Now, looking back on Rainier, the first fatal accident happened by a professor named J.H. McClure in July of 1848. He lost his way, plunged off a cliff, and crushed his skull, the circumstances of which were blurry at best. But that was the first one I could find. There has to be others. Well, Callahan and Stevens supposedly continued to climb in the blizzard. They did not turn around. And as Sterling and a group were waiting at Camp Muir, they didn't come back that night. The blizzard actually persisted for a couple of days, with no climbers willing to go up and mount a rescue because it was too dangerous. In the meantime, Callahan had a brother named Owen that lived in Philomath, Oregon. And he heard about TF disappearing up on the mountain. And he immediately came to the mountain to see what he could do. Now, the missing Callahan lived with a man called Sidney Sherman before he disappeared. And Owen, Callahan's brother, went to visit Sherman. And he got the information that his brother was probably deceased. This is the first time he had heard that. And Sherman recommended that he go talk to a couple of guides that are specialists on Mount Rainier. And Owen did, and he talked to the guides, and the guides said that your brother and Mr. Stevens were probably dead at 2 o'clock that afternoon. The weather was too fierce, it got too dark, it got too cold, they didn't have the equipment to live in that environment, and there was no doubt that they were deceased. Well, I depressed the heck out of Owen. But these were Rainier guides who really knew their stuff. Well, the men, Callahan and Owens, were climbing what was called Cowlitz Glacier. Cowlitz Glacier. Now, this is the lodge on the side of Mount Rainier right here. If you look up the mountain, Cowlitz Glacier would be just to the right as you're looking from the lodge. So it'd be on the south side of the mountain. Now, if you've never driven this route up here, it's absolutely stunningly gorgeous. I'd recommend you do it. It's a very nice road going up. It's a leisurely trip. Epically gorgeous. Well, friends and family were very concerned because the men hadn't been found. And since they disappeared and the weather did clear, other people went up, including the guides, looking for bodies because they said that's all they're going to find. They didn't find anything. Nothing. On August 25th, Owen the brother met with friends, family, and the press. And since the disappearance, he had spoke to others who had gone up on that mountain and looked. And he said the rescuers continually made a statement that since they had no idea which was the exact route they were taking other than General Cowlitz Glacier, it would be too dangerous and futile to continue a search in that area. One of the things that this story brought up was, number one, nobody really knew where these guys were going. And it's important whenever you take a trip on a mountain, in a forest, you tell people exactly where you're going. It's been over 100 years, and there are many bodies on Rainier that have never been found. Many. Way over 40. I know it's a lot, isn't it? But nowadays, you can take a trip up Mount Rainier. You pay a guide service. This is the way to do it, folks. First of all, do not go up there and try this without being in exceptionally good shape. First of all, they probably wouldn't take you. And number two, it'd be purely stupid. When I did Mount Shasta, once you get up above 10,000 feet, it's like there's not enough air to breathe. If you're not in really good shape, you're never going to make it. Because every step up is like 100 steps up. So, if you want to take a trip on Rainier, you sign up for this guide service. And they put you in a class for a day. And they evaluate you. And they tell you what to expect. Tell you what you need to understand, what you need to do. Listen to them. And then you spend the night on the side of a mountain, on the side of the mountain. Very early in the morning, you get up. You have a big, healthy breakfast, and you start climbing. The goal is to get to the mountain before noon. Afternoon, you're crazy to be up there. Because weather changes so rapidly, weather is going to kill you up there if you stay in the late afternoon. Everyone goes as a group. Success rate is very high. You're with guides. You're on a course that's marked by rope. As I stated, Rainier is much more dangerous than Mount Shasta. More dangerous and more technical. And the route that they pick for you to climb on Rainier is one of the safest, easiest routes on that mountain. Again, you would be an idiot to try to climb Rainier without a guide. Now, Shasta's a little different. Late in the summer, when there's almost no snow on it, there are so many people climbing, there's like a line of people that you just climb with. If something happens, they'll help you down, or they'll call, or something. Rainier is not like that. Not like that. So, I read you the story behind Rainier because it goes towards how unusual this place really is. And that is just 1% of the unusual part of Rainier. Oh, there's a lot more. And you're going to hear a lot more about Rainier in the future from Dave. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. No. Hey. When I said the unusual nature about Rainier, Huck did not like that. Yeah, I know, Huck. I know. It's okay. It's okay. I know. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Good. Oh, I know. You go back to sleep, okay? It's okay. Yeah. Hey, you're waking the poor people up. They were sleeping. Okay. The next case. This was an older case, 1983. And it just got a lot more press within the last week or two. It involves a man named Michael Bell. Michael was 27 years old, disappeared May 28th, 1983. And this is a UK case. This is the best picture anybody could come up with on Michael. He was a warehouseman in Birmingham, UK, single, super close with his parents, Sheila and Kenneth Bell. May 6, 1983, Michael took a road trip to Isle of the Skye with his friend, Ron, in Ron's car. They kind of planned a road trip, and what they were going to do is they were going to stop at Michael's aunt's home and visit her in the Lake District. Well, they did, and the pair stayed in a hotel during the visit. Everything went great. They had a good time. No issues. So here's Glasgow, Scotland. Here's Isle of the Skye right here. I'm going to explain to you this route here in a second. On May 7th, Ron and Michael made it to the Isle. And they were camping out in the Dunvegan area west of the Isle, west of the town of Isle. And while they were there, it rained really hard on the pair. Got them both wet. Michael wasn't happy. He was cold. And let you know a little bit about Michael's personality. He's a huge soccer fan. The Birmingham Soccer Club, he was a huge fan, wouldn't miss a game. Followed the team religiously, like a super fan. His parents, everyone made that a point that you got to know. So anyhow, the guys were cold, wet. They were doing okay. Michael finally got a little upset. Around May 14th, Michael called his parents, and they said that he was depressed because he was so cold and wet, and he wanted to come home. Michael said that Ron didn't want to come home, he wanted to stay. After the call, Michael went, grabbed some cigarettes, and he grabbed a lighter from the car, and he started to walk away, telling Ron he was going to go home. And just started to walk down the trail from the car. Ron said he followed him in his car, opening the window, telling him, hey, I'll give you a ride out of the area. I won't give you a ride home, but I'll give you a ride to the bus station or something. And Michael said, no, leave me alone. The trail of Michael gets a little jagged right here. Police initially thought Michael disappeared on the Isle. Not true. After extensive investigations, they determined from doing follow-up on phone calls, etc., that Michael was walking off the Isle and he ran into an officer near a bus depot. And the officer put him on a bus for a place called Portree that goes towards Glasgow. Again, it was initially believed he went missing on the Isle, but they found these officers and they found the confirmation that, no, he took buses off the Isle. Well, Michael phoned his parents saying he was in Dalwhinnie, 120 miles from the Isle. He said he had argued with his friends and left wanting to go home. Said, I'll get a hold of you later. Hung up. He made another call, this time from the town of Tindrum, 60 miles from Dalwhinnie. This time he told his folks he was going towards Glasgow and he was near the border and he'd return home tomorrow. Now, Michael didn't drive, and his dad doubted that he could get home in one day. And the parents didn't understand, but the phone was cut short. And that was the last time that they heard from him. Now this is a map from Skye to Dalwhinnie. That was the route he would have taken on a bus to get to this point. Here's Glasgow down here. So this would have been Michael's home here in the UK. This is Glasgow. This was Dalwhinnie. He was trying to make his way down to Glasgow, into the UK, and down to his home. This is where the trip gets real interesting. His last phone call to his parents was cut short. They didn't know why. But he said he was heading towards Glasgow and be home in a day. His parents said Michael didn't drive, didn't know how he'd get home in a day. But his parents hoped for the best. Michael wasn't a world traveler. He was an adult, thought like an adult. So his parents waited. Day went by, week went by, 2 weeks went by. On May 28th, the Bells reported Michael missing to the UK police. And it was about the same time that Ron, Michael's friend, stopped by the parents' house and gave all the property back to his parents that Michael had left while they were camping. Ron answered all the questions to the parents, said that Michael was acting abnormally sometime after the rainstorm. Couldn't explain it. He'd known him for a long time. Didn't seem to be himself. Now the parents, Ron, everyone said that Michael never spoke about taking his life. That was never on the table. Police said he had no police record, and everyone stated he just wanted to get home. Over the last 40 years, his parents have made public requests for anyone with information to come forward about Michael. Nobody's ever come forward. Nobody's ever said anything. Now, remember what I told you about Michael going to Birmingham Soccer Club games, never missing a game? This is something I would have done. Michael's dad said, there's one thing, Michael would never miss their games. So Michael's dad went to every Birmingham soccer game and searched the crowd every game looking for his son. It just tears your heart out. Police believe that Michael got off the bus to call his parents in Tyndrum on May 14th. And the question in the police minds is, did he get back on the bus going towards Glasgow? Or did he stay in Tyndrum? Or did something else happen? And then why did that last call get cut short? I think the key to this is something happened at that time where it started to rain real hard on the Isle of Skye. Because his friend said that something in him just changed. So is that something having to do with the weather? Did something happen when they were sleeping? Something happened when they were awake? Questions that have never been answered. But this case struck me different than others because Michael specifically said to his parents, I'm cold, I'm wet, I want to come home. Usually don't get those words out of people. And then for the phone calls to be cut short, that's not normal. Michael wasn't someone that would want to run away from his parents or his friends. He'd been friends with Ron for a long time. Safety was with that car and his friend. Why wouldn't he have taken the ride? Those are the million-dollar questions. So friends, I appreciate you watching. Both the cases are very strange. If you can, please share these on social media. Michael's parents would appreciate it. In the meantime, kindness. It costs nothing to be kind. Be nice. Be helpful. Most importantly, be safe. If you're around a service worker, supermarket clerk, waitress, waiter, just smile and be kind. Paulides out.